right, guys, we are back. And man, has it been a while since I gone ahead and posted on the channel Entry Level IT. And believe it or not, guys, I have been in the background working diligently to go ahead and to strive and achieve and accomplish some goals. One of those is actually the whole idea of this video is with this video, we're going to talk about my experience with taking a formal education class for in the pursuit of a computer science associate's degree. And we're going to go ahead and talk about the pros and cons because now I can technically speak about it a little bit more than before, because now I've seen myself in a formal education class and I've seen myself self-taught. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the pros and cons. Maybe you're on the fence and maybe you're thinking about going ahead and doing it. And we'll get into that. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the topics that we learned. We're not going to go ahead and make this a complete lecture. We're just going to go ahead and just highlight some of the topics that were discussed in this class. And once again, guys, let's just get to it. So computer and society, so that was the abbreviated name of basically the course. It's a basic 100 introduction to computer science. This was I believe, as of the recording of this video, I basically just need to go ahead and take the final exam, and grades will be posted. Hopefully I get an A so I can boost up that GPA and whatnot. But let's get to it. And you guys already know me. Had a lot of motivation for this semester, and it's gone. You guys know me. I like memes. I like South Park. Funny enough, within our class discussions, there was a few people in there who would go ahead and reference South Park episodes. So that was really cool to see. And actually, that gets to one of the pros. Of going ahead and taking a formal education class. So self-taught versus formal education. Guys, I've seen this over and over and over and over and over again. And it just honestly depends on who you're talking to. Okay. Some people have said, hey, you know what? I got a 100K job by going ahead and teaching myself everything that I know. I didn't go to college. I didn't go ahead and get a degree. I didn't take any formal education. I just opened up a book, used my laptop, browsed the internet, and now I know everything that I know. You have that spectrum. Okay. And then on the other spectrum, you have hey, I went to college, I got a doctorate in computer science. I went ahead and I went through basically the system, so to speak, the educational formal system, and that's how I went ahead and got my 100K job that I am currently doing now. I'm teaching, so on and so forth. You have that on the other spectrum. Okay, so you have the self-taught person who's completely 100% self-taught, and then you have the formal education person who actually went through just a complete um, uh, higher education via college, and that's how they got to where they were. And we have everything else in between. Okay, guys. So this idea of self-taught versus formal education, and you're going to hear it time and time and time again. Pick what's best for you. Okay? Pick what's best for you. And honestly, the best thing that I can tell you is, if you fail once, try again. If you fail twice, try again. If you fail third time, try again. And just keep trying until you find your way, until you find your formula, until you find something that works for you, and run with it. Okay. But in order for you to go ahead and actually say, hey, let me see if this works, you honestly genuinely do have to commit. You can't just try it one day and say, hey, it didn't work, okay, on to the next. Sometimes you can't even try it 1 month. Sometimes you can't even try it 6 months. Sometimes it's got to be like, hey, I'm going to genuinely commit to this for a year and see how this goes. So you have to keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, find what works for you. Stay disciplined, stay committed. Okay, so self-taught versus formal education. Okay. So pick the one that's right for you, or maybe you might be a hybrid, a little bit of both. So here we go. We're going to talk about the pros and cons. And this is, mind you, this is basically for one class, for one semester that I've done and that I learned. Okay. So when it comes to going to college, there's a couple things that I really like, and there's a couple things that I don't like. Okay. And the first thing that I honestly truly like is it's structured. Okay, everything is structured. You have, especially in this course that we had that I took, every specific day of the week you had your discussions with regards to your chapter reading that you had to turn in. You had your weekly quizzes that you had to do, and you had your projects. And it was structured in the sense that it wasn't some random day. No, it was more so like, hey, Tuesday discussions are due, hey, Wednesday quizzes are due, hey, Monday your project is due, and the next week, same thing. Hey, your discussions are due. Hey, your quizzes are due. Hey, your project is due. Next week, same, fourth, on and on and on. And it was structured. And that's one thing that I honestly think is that you need to that is an ingredient that you need to have, whether you're self-taught or whether you're in formal education. Having that structure, knowing that, hey, this is the time that I need to dedicate to this specific subject matter so I can go ahead and comprehend the material. Making sure things are structured. Okay, and that's honestly one of the big things that I love about formal education that I try to implement in my own life. It's never perfect, but it's having that idea of, hey, we have a recipe here, and if the recipe's not working, we'll adjust the recipe, but we're going to stick to this recipe to figure out what is the net results of our recipe. Okay, the next thing that I like, college credit, guys. College credit, um it's nice, you know, it's nice being able to sit in a job interview and say, "Oh yeah, I took that during my college credit. This is my professor. He was actually a really big believer in this philosophy, so on and so forth." College credit is nice, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a big believer in education, period. But when you take a Udemy course versus a college credit course, it's optics. You know, it's optics. People are still, not to say that one is better than the other or the other one is better or so on and so forth, but it is a matter of optics. And when people see, hey, you have some college credit, or you have some college certifications, or you have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate's degree, that speaks volume in it of itself. Um it shows something that you wouldn't necessarily get from saying, "Hey, I took this Udemy course." Even though you might be learning the same exact skills, and sometimes you even might be more proficient in the skill via a Udemy class, but the college credit, it does provide that optics. Okay, it really does. um Next thing, consistent feedback, guys. This is something that I really didn't have when I was self-taught. This is something that I honestly really did like. The consistent feedback is kind of like, hey, we're reading this chapter, we're taking this quiz. You took the quiz, hey, you got a 12 out of 15. Dang, okay. What am I missing? What did I miss? What did I get wrong? You know, it's having that consistent feedback of, hey, you turned in a project. The project, you missed 5 points out of 50. Why did I miss those 5 points? What did I get wrong? You know, within the opportunity to turn in your work, you're also getting that opportunity of consistent feedback of like, hey, this was good, this wasn't good. Hey, this was good, this wasn't good. Hey, you missed this, but you got this right. You got this right, but you missed this. And I get it. The consistent feedback system is basically predicated upon one person, and that is your professor. And that's why sometimes you really do want to go ahead and get on their good side, so to speak. I mean, that's a conversation in and of itself. But that whole idea of having consistent feedback within the system every time that you're working on something, some people might not like that, but I do, because it lets me know, hey, this is where I am. This is, I'm on track, so to speak. And everything's broken down into modules. So it's just kind of like, hey, you did really good on this module, not so good on this. So this lets you know this is what you need to study on. Next thing, experts in the field. I believe the professor that I had about 25 to 30 years experience in the information technology field. So when you start dealing with individuals as such that basically have been doing it they've been doing their job longer than you've been alive. That kind of lets you know, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm swimming in a pond with some sharks, so to speak. The other thing that I really liked about formal education versus going ahead and doing the self-taught um, was actually the live interaction. If I needed an answer, I can ask my classmates. I can ask the professor. I can go ahead and get an answer a little bit quicker, as opposed to going ahead and putting a comment on YouTube. Okay, the live interaction is faster, and it had, and you knew that at the end of the day it was just like, hey, this is a live person that I'm talking to. This is nice. You don't know whether it's a bot or what have you, and you don't have to go ahead and search through the internet for all the answers. Though that is one of my favorite ways to learn, is honestly searching the internet. And then lastly, for the pros, I'm gonna say networking. Networking, networking not as in, oh, OSI model, or networking as in, oh, let's go ahead and see how a network with computers actually work. I'm talking about networking with people. Granted, the class was online, so we didn't have that technical social interaction, so to speak, but we did have a sense of that with regards to the way the class was structured. The way the class was structured was every week we would basically have discussions. That means that I'm not in my own little bubble. Okay, so we have a topic, and we have uh 10, 15, 20, 30 different opinions, 20, 30 different perspectives, and we have some people that agree, some people that don't agree, some people that completely disagree, and it it, on that, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. You have to really, if I'm being genuine, you have to really swallow your pride and put your ego aside, because you have to realize that, hey, you might think this way, but just because you think this way doesn't mean that everybody else should, and as humans, that is a very, 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 very hard thing to do, because we basically do it subconsciously. And that's one thing that I was my knee jerk reaction was like, what are these people thinking sometimes? And then as I let it sit, as I let it marinate, I was like, why are these people thinking this way? What is their thought process? Like, why do they think that potentially we should be able to go ahead and advertise all of our cookies, and big data should have all of our information, or the opposite? Hey, should big data have all our cookies and all of our information? Why shouldn't they, if you're not doing anything wrong? It was things of that nature that really that I liked, because I was introduced to different opinions, different perspectives, and people within their own different journey. And that's something that I kind of realized that I had to work on, you know. Um, but nonetheless, let's go to the cons. So I'm gonna go to the cons. Granted, guys, I didn't go to Harvard. It was basically a community college. But I'm gonna be honest with you. The cost, you know, and here's the thing, and this is probably bad to say, but I'm gonna just tell you right away. I'm cheap, you know. When I saw, in reality, the cost is not a lot. It's just like, it was like $200, 250 bucks a class. And if you really think about it, like 250 bucks a class is not a lot. We probably spend that on quote unquote stupid things on the weekend, but just when I look at it from the perspective of 250 bucks a class, I'm like, man, I can probably get 15 to 20 Udemy online courses for that price, you know. But it kind of comes back to this. I'm not getting that college credit. I'm not getting that live interaction. I'm not getting that networking with the people. I'm not getting that. Technically, Udemy classes are pretty structured, so I can't complain about that. But it's not structured in the sense of, hey, you have things due, and if you don't get those things due, you're going to be graded accordingly. Um, so structure can probably be broken up in many different ways, but nonetheless, uh, to to $250 a class, with textbooks. It adds up, guys. Especially in this economy, it definitely does add up. The other thing is that it was time consuming. Okay, guys. The cool thing about being self taught is the good thing and the bad thing is you. It's a lot easier to make excuses. Okay, it's a lot easier to make excuses compared to, for example, if you have a quiz that's due every Tuesday for the next 12 weeks, okay, and you email your professor one time and you say, "Hey, I missed the quiz," and he goes, "Yeah, I'll extend it." And then the next week, "Hey, my dog ate my homework." "Oh, okay. And the next week, "Hey, the car ran out of gas." "Oh, okay." "Hey," the next week, "Hey, there was an electrical outage." The next week, "Hey, the internet's down." The next week, it's kind of like it becomes a mirror. Okay, it becomes a mirror, and some people don't like to look at the mirror. I'm gonna be honest with you. Out of the whole semester, I asked my professor one time, "Hey man, I goofed up. Can I get an extension on one of the quizzes? I thought I completed it. I didn't even look at it. I was so focused on the project." That happened to me once. That It happens to everyone, right? But if that happens 6 times out of the 12 weeks, that lets you know, hey, something's going on, which kind of goes back to the idea of time consuming, right? You have to be disciplined and you have to be structured and you have to go ahead and make sure that you're getting things done when they're supposed to be done. Okay. And that's something that you have the luxury when you're self-taught, where you're going to be like, "Oh, well, I kind of already studied a lot. I don't have to focus on another chapter," and that kind of goes back to that live feedback. So it is time consuming. There's a lot of projects, and sometimes when you're new and it's a project that's completely new, you're just kind of like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on? What am I learning today?" Another con is this: sometimes you learn what they want to teach, not what you want to learn. Okay. So, and this is especially for those people who are hungry for knowledge, or those people who are curious and they want to be like, "Hey, I want to learn about this. I want to learn about this. I want to learn about this." And it kind of goes back to, "Hey, we're not doing that. This is structured. This is how we're going to run this class. And this is the topics that we're going to go ahead and talk about." So sometimes that can be a con, especially for a person who is as curious as I am. You find that, "Hey, can we dive into this subject a little bit more?" It's just like, "No, this isn't the purpose of this class. We're going to stick with the purpose of this class." So that those were the pros and cons. We definitely went into a little bit a deep dive when it comes to that formal education and this class in particular. But let's go ahead and let's go through this really quickly. This was the topics that were discussed in our semester. So there was basically 11 core topics. The impact of digital technology, that basically has to deal with your digital literacy. How literate are you when it comes in the digital world? Okay, then we talked about the web, which is basically the internet. We talked about the idea of computer hardware, your basic CPU, RAM, motherboard, so on and so forth. This was actually pretty cool because you realize that, like, in the 1950s and 60s, they actually had large, huge vacuums where a computer was basically the size of half a house, kind of thing. We talked about operating systems and file management. We talked about software and apps. We already established, if you don't already know, that most people are going ahead and they're using their applications and their internet via the phone. So for those of you guys who are really big in software development, realize that a majority of the people are going ahead and accessing those applications and the internet via their phone. So you want to tailor your software towards the phone, but at the same time, you have to realize that there is people on laptops and desktops and whatnot, and you want to keep that in the background to make sure that whatever application or whatever internet site you have is adjustable to the device that the individual is using. One of my favorite topics, we talked about security and safety. Hey, careful with spam. We talked about malware. We went ahead and talked about It was interesting because we talked about the general ideas, but they didn't really bring up any like case studies, like nonetheless, this was kind of like a buffet class where we talked on a lot of subjects. We didn't really dive deep. We talked about digital media. Okay, program and app use and development, which kind of goes back to number five, software and apps. We went to the web once again. Then number 10 was networking. Okay, so this was networking in the sense of how a network works. We talked about topology, we talked about physical topology, we talked about logical topology. It was interesting because even within this chapter, within this book, they didn't even bring up the OSI model. So it just shows you that it wasn't in depth. It was more like a mile long, inch deep, as opposed to a mile deep. So nonetheless, we did talk about networking, and then we talked about digital communication. Is basically going ahead and how we now in the era of technology, how we are going ahead and communicating by digital means. Okay, and guess what, guys? I kind of I looked at it already. Technically, if you do 7 classes, you get an associate's degree in computer science. So how cool is that? If you complete 7 classes, you get an associate's degree. Mind you, it goes associates, bachelor's, master's, doctorates, right? But 7 classes at a local community college roundabout, you can earn an associate's in computer science. How cool is that? You know, and I think that's one way that you can definitely stand outside of the crowd, where it's just like, hey, I'm self-taught. I don't mind doing formal education. I learned this material, and it just makes you that much more well-rounded. We talked about unicorns, and I mentioned this before in my previous videos. It's just like I want to do everything I can to become an for a unicorn. You will kind of want to be that guy that everybody in the office goes to because they know that you're going to have the answer and they know that you're going to be able to solve the problem. If you can do that, you become valuable, extremely valuable. You become the linchpin the organization. And the more you become the linchpin, the harder it is for them to get rid of you, the easier it is for when you ask for a raise. Um, the harder it is when they think of, hey, who do we got to get rid of because of budget cuts? You definitely want to become a linchpin in your organization and in everything that you do. You want to know your information inside and out. You want to be that guy or that gal that people can rely on and say, hey, he knows his shit. Excuse the French, but basically that's what you want to be. So 7 selected classes to earn an associate's in computer science. And in about a week or two, I can officially say I would be 1 out of 7. Hopefully we get that A to boost up that GPA, maybe even start applying for scholarships. Who knows? I don't know. All I know is I'm going to miss 100% of the shots I don't take. So with that being said, guys, thank you for your guys' patience. I know it's been a while since I've been posting. I want to go ahead and start making it more consistent, but actions speak louder than words. So let's just leave it there. But hey, man, I give myself a pat in the back, give myself a hug because it's just like, hey, you took a step. Hey, at least you went out. At least you went out and you tried out to go ahead and further your education. So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, maybe put your experience in formal education. Maybe you're completely self-taught and you're completely against formal education, or maybe you have a formal education, you're completely against self-taught. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and see if we can start productive discussion down below in the comment section. Other than that, guys, I will see you guys on the next one.